Hi everyone, it's Patty Barr again, College of Education, Director of iCater. This is the part of the dyslexia disability simulation where we're going to look at reading. So we're going to first, put yourself in the mindset of you're probably, again, third or fourth grade, maybe a little younger. And we're going to start out by just, we're going to read a story. We're going to go over our lines and bumps. And let's have you look at these. So just tell me what these are. What's this letter? It's a G. What's this letter? That one is a D. And what is this one? That letter is a Q, a P. Let's see. What's this letter? This is a Q. And this letter is a B. Now, if you got all those right, you're going to do a great job with reading this story. So let me just share my screen. And not just the story, but you're going to do really, really well on the test at the end of the story. So I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see my story. This is the lines and bumps story. You could have printed this out if you want to and follow along. But what I'd like to do is to have you read a line, and then I will read a line. You can read a line. I'll read a line. So in between, just pause this video, and when it's your turn to read, okay? Because usually we would do this in a round robin fashion. So you go ahead and read the first line. Actually, you might need to pause the video until you're done. And now it's my turn. I'll read the next. I will read the next sentence. So we'll do sentence by sentence. He stood in the village square and played and sang until the people came to listen and to dance. Your turn. Pause the video. My turn. A small boy skipped through the crowd with his dog nipping at his heels and yapping loudly. Pause the video and you can read the next line. It had been a long, weary day, and the fiddler was glad of a rest in this pleasant village. So, okay, so I don't know how you did with this, but I wonder if you can imagine somebody saying some of these things while you were reading. So, do we need to review these lines and bumps again? Could you read a little faster? Could you smooth that out while you're reading? Try not to read one word at a time. Put the letters together so that they all make sense. Or someone needs to study a little harder. So, because I did a pretty good job of reading, I think. The teacher might have also said to me something like, "Oh, you're a good reader. You are a good reader," indicating, I'm a good reader, but maybe you're not as good a reader as I am. So these are things that I think teachers would say while you're reading a passage. So the next thing I just want to have you, jot down on a sheet of paper, some of the things about this story. So could you tell me who the characters are in the story? So you can pause until you want the answer. So there's the milkmaid, the fiddler, the dog, a boy, the butcher, and people. So then, what did the boy do? You can pause to think. The boy skipped through the crowd. So When do you think this took place? You can pause as you think. It was many years ago. And what are the places, how could you tell that this was many years ago? You can pause. It says in the first line that it happened many years ago, but then there's also things like a fiddler, a milkmaid. So it might have been helpful if I'd actually given you some information before you actually read this passage. So, think of you being in third grade, you might not know what a fiddler is. You might not know what a milkmaid is. A village square and somebody coming and playing music and people tossing coins. I mean, that just, you don't see that very often anymore. So this would be another cue as to why, when the story took place. So then another comprehension question is, what did the people do? And I kind of gave it away in the last thing I said. They tossed coins in the fiddler's hat, and they also brought the fiddler milk and cookies. So if this was difficult for you, think about students, again, that, we did this for just a few minutes, but think about your students that read this way, or they're stumbling over the words and the decoding. Think about that, and think about doing this 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, year after year for 13 years. And wonder, what would you be like in the classroom? What would a student be like in the classroom if this is the way that they read all the time? Hopefully in other areas of this class, you're going to learn about some assistive technology that can help with reading comprehension, even if you're not decoding. Students that are not reading at grade level certainly need to continue to have reading instruction. But in the meantime, until they've broken the code to be able to read, students may need some assistance with, say, a text reader, so that they can have access to the grade level content. So the grade level content in science class or literature class or even math class. So think about this, and then think about the reasons why this was difficult. And you can pause the video if you'd like. But some people talk about the font. If you printed this out, and people talk about the S's and the A's and the F's, and if you printed this out and you want to look at it up to the light, turn it over and look at it up to the light, you'll see that this font is Times New Roman. It's which is a really common font that we all use, but this is a font that's really difficult for people who have dyslexia. This is a difficult font for them to read, and especially for young kids too, because like the A's, you saw that they look like a backward S. The G, that's not the way you make a G when you're learning to write. So there are just some of the words, some of the letters that are difficult to have. If you had trouble with the comprehension questions that I asked, you might wonder why that is. And it may be that you were so focused on reading the actual words that you didn't get the whole content of it. So again, think of those kiddos that are reading like this all the time. So again, these simulations were meant to make you uncomfortable and really give you a feeling, kind of deep in your gut of what it's like for a person with a reading disability to read. This is not the way a person with dyslexia reads, but it gives you a feeling of what it's like. So I hope you enjoyed this at some level.